The night air is still, gentle as silk. A faint hum of life lingers outside, the quiet stir of leaves, the rhythm of distant crickets. But within this moment, a deeper stillness begins to form. The listener rests in this space, body settling, mind softening, as though the world itself has slowed to match the rhythm of their breath. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And as we begin this journey, I invite you to share in the comments where you're listening from and the current time. These small threads of connection remind us that even in silence, we are not alone. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's drift into tonight's meditation together. The journey begins with a breath. Inhale, slow, steady, filling the chest with calm. Exhale, gentle, unhurried, releasing the weight of the day. With each cycle of breath, the body grows heavier, the muscles unwind, and the mind is drawn inward, toward a silence that is not empty, but alive. Imagine sitting at the edge of a quiet forest at dawn. Mist gathers among the trees, drifting like soft veils across the ground. Birds are not yet singing. The world feels suspended in pause, a threshold between night and day. Here, in this gentle hush, silence reveals itself, not as absence, but as presence, a presence that heals. The Buddha often taught that truth does not only dwell in words. Sometimes, silence itself speaks more deeply than speech. In those pauses between phrases, in the spaces where thought softens, understanding arises naturally. The listener begins to feel this now, the way silence rests like cool water over the heat of restless thought, soothing the mind's chatter, offering refuge from the noise. A mindful practice unfolds. The listener is guided to follow the breath, not forcing it, simply noticing its rise and fall. Between the inhale and the exhale, there is a brief, still point, a tiny pause where nothing is demanded, nothing is missing. By resting awareness there, in that moment of suspension, the listener experiences the healing power of silence within the breath itself. A reflection surfaces. Some believe silence is empty, a void to be filled with words, music, or distraction. Others discover silence is full, brimming with presence, rich with peace, alive with possibility. Tonight, the listener leans into the second truth. They see that silence is not a lack, but a gift, a medicine for the restless heart. The body responds with ease. The jaw loosens. The shoulders sink deeper into rest. The breath grows longer and softer. The hollow inside begins to fill, not with sound, not with thought, but with the nourishing quiet of being. The narrator whispers, "Just breathe. It's safe to let go," drifting deeper now. The forest within the imagination brightens slightly as dawn stretches across the horizon. Yet the silence remains, steady and comforting. It holds the listener as they settle further, realizing that silence is not something to fear, but something to embrace. And so, the first step into silence becomes the first step into healing. The breath flows steadily now, like a soft tide brushing the shore. Each inhale rises with ease. Each exhale fades gently away, carrying with it the remnants of the day's noise. In this calm rhythm, the listener begins to sense what lies beneath words and sound. The quiet pulse of presence, the gift of the pause. Silence is often misunderstood. Many imagine it as a void, an empty space that must be filled. But in meditation, silence reveals itself as something entirely different. It is not absence, but fullness. Not emptiness, but presence. When one leans into silence, what emerges is a deeper listening, a way of hearing not just sound, but the subtle essence of life itself. The imagery unfolds. The listener imagines walking through a wide meadow under the stars. The night sky arches endlessly overhead, vast and sparkling. There is no music, no chatter, only the quiet song of the universe, the hum of stillness that underlies all things. Standing here beneath the stars, the listener realizes that silence is not mute. It whispers softly through the vastness, carrying the language of peace. A Buddhist teaching arises. The Buddha often sat in silence, allowing his very presence to teach. Words have limits. They can only point toward truth. Silence, however, allows truth to be directly felt. To sit quietly is to open the heart to wisdom that is beyond the reach of language. A mindful practice unfolds. The listener is invited to notice the spaces between sounds. Even now, in the outer world, there may be the faint hum of a fan, the distant rustle of leaves, or the whisper of breath itself. Between these sounds lies silence. By listening deeply, the mind begins to hear not only the sound, but the silence that frames it. This awareness opens a door to peace. A reflection surfaces. Some believe healing comes only from doing, from action, from fixing, from striving. Others discover healing blooms in stillness when nothing is forced, when silence is allowed to hold the heart. Tonight, the listener leans into the second truth. They begin to see silence not as lack, but as a balm, a presence that soothes without effort. The body responds with surrender. The chest feels lighter. The breath slows further. The muscles release their last threads of tension. The hollow inside no longer aches with absence. It begins to glow with quiet fullness, as though silence itself were gently filling the space. The narrator whispers, "Listen to the pause, between breaths, between thoughts, between sounds. Just breathe, drifting deeper now." The meadow stretches endlessly, stars shimmering like lanterns across the sky. The silence here is vast yet tender, wrapping the listener in a cloak of peace. In this stillness, they rest. The first glimpse of healing revealed through the pause itself. The breath moves gently, slow and steady, like ripples spreading across a still pond. With each inhale, the listener gathers calm. With each exhale, the burdens of the day slip further away, dissolving into quiet. In this rhythm, the listener begins to sense how silence does more than calm the surface. It lightens the weight the mind has carried for so long. The imagery unfolds. The listener imagines walking into a quiet room, its air cool and still. On the floor lies a heavy bundle, a bundle made of thoughts, worries, regrets, and expectations. Without even noticing, the listener has carried this bundle everywhere, day after day. In silence, though, there is no need to hold it anymore. Slowly, gently, they set it down. The shoulders ease, the chest expands, the breath flows more freely. Silence becomes a place where weight is released. A Buddhist teaching arises. The mind, when filled with noise, clings tightly to thoughts, replaying them endlessly. The Buddha compared this to carrying unnecessary burdens on a long journey. Silence teaches us to put the load down, to walk freely without the weight of constant chatter. The act of letting go, even briefly, is itself healing. A mindful practice unfolds. The listener is invited to notice the points of tension in the body. Perhaps the jaw is tight, the hands curled, the stomach clenched. With each exhale, they imagine placing these tensions onto the bundle on the floor. Each release is a surrender, a softening into silence. The body begins to understand that it no longer has to hold everything. A reflection surfaces. Some believe silence is passive, doing nothing to solve the problems of life. Others discover silence is active in its gentleness. It loosens, it releases, it heals without force. Tonight, the listener leans into the second truth. They see that silence does not ignore the burdens of the heart, but helps carry them away, leaving the spirit lighter. The body responds with relief. The breath lengthens. The chest feels open. The shoulders sink deeply into rest. The hollow inside no longer aches with heaviness. It feels like an open sky, spacious and free. The narrator whispers, "The weight can be put down now. Just breathe. It's safe to let go. Drifting deeper now." The room within the imagination glows softly, candlelight flickering across the walls. The bundle of burdens lies quietly on the floor, no longer clutched, no longer heavy. The listener rests, unburdened, discovering that silence is not only absence of sound, but the freedom of release. And so, silence heals by lightening the load, allowing the listener to walk more gently into peace. The breath flows in calm rhythm, steady as a stream winding gently through stone. Each inhale draws in freshness. Each exhale releases what no longer serves. In this flow, silence begins to reveal itself, not as an inner space alone, but as something mirrored in nature. The vast, quiet presence of mountains. The imagery unfolds. The listener imagines standing before a great mountain range at dusk. Peaks rise high into the sky, wrapped in mist, their silence deeper than words could ever carry. The mountains do not speak, yet their presence communicates strength. patience, and calm. No matter the storm, no matter the passing clouds, they remain unmoved, resting in stillness. The listener feels this steadiness within, as if their own breath has become part of the mountain air. A Buddhist teaching arises. The Buddha often compared the trained mind to a mountain, unshaken by wind, unmoved by storms. In silence, one begins to taste this strength. Words and sounds come and go, but beneath them lies a presence that endures. To dwell in silence is to rest in that presence, steady and grounded. A mindful practice unfolds. The listener is invited to imagine their body as a mountain. The spine becomes its central peak, the shoulders its ridges, the breath its gentle winds. Thoughts may come like passing clouds, but they drift by without disturbing the mountain's stillness. With each inhale, the mountain rises tall. With each exhale, it settles deeper into the earth. The body begins to rest in this imagery, feeling unshaken and secure. A reflection surfaces. Some believe strength comes from force, from resisting and conquering. Others discover strength is revealed in stillness, in the ability to remain unmoved by turmoil. Tonight, the listener leans into the second truth. They see that silence is not weakness, but the grounded strength of a mountain, calm, vast, and enduring. The body responds with stability. The breath grows slower. The heart beats steady. The muscles relax into the sense of rootedness. The hollow inside no longer feels fragile. It feels anchored, deep as stone, timeless as the mountain itself. The narrator whispers, "Be like the mountain, steady, still, unmoved. Just breathe." It's safe to rest, drifting deeper now. The mountain peaks glow under moonlight, mists curling softly around their bases. The listener rests here, standing within the vast silence of stone and sky, discovering that silence teaches strength more enduring than sound. And so, silence heals by grounding the listener, offering the strength of the mountains that stand in stillness. The breath settles into a gentle rhythm, steady as waves that rise and fall upon a quiet shore. In this softness, the listener is invited to turn inward, to notice the space not only in the body, but between the body's own rhythms, the pauses that often go unseen. Silence is not only in the world outside, it dwells in the spaces within, especially in the delicate interval between two heartbeats. The heart beats faithfully, moment by moment, carrying life forward. Yet between each beat, there is a pause, a stillness, a silence that holds the rhythm together. It is in this pause that the listener begins to sense healing. The imagery unfolds. The listener imagines lying beneath the open sky, the stars above shimmering softly. As they rest, their attention drifts to the pulse in their chest. Beat, beat, then silence. A pause, steady and calm, before the rhythm continues. That pause is not absence, it is presence. It is the quiet foundation that makes the beating possible. The hollow inside begins to soften as the listener feels themselves held by this inner silence. A Buddhist teaching arises. Awareness of the body and its rhythms is one of the foundations of mindfulness. The Buddha encouraged his followers to notice not just the breath, but the subtle sensations of life itself. To rest in silence is to rest in the truth that even in the body there is calm between movements, stillness between actions, peace between heartbeats. A mindful practice unfolds. The listener is guided to bring awareness to their own heartbeat. Without force, they simply notice the rhythm and then the silence between. With each inhale, the pulse is felt gently. With each exhale, the silence deepens. Awareness begins to sink into these pauses, like stepping into a quiet sanctuary within the body. A reflection surfaces. Some believe silence must be found in remote caves, far from the noise of the world. Others discover silence is already within, in breath, in heartbeat, in the pauses that weave through life. Tonight, the listener leans into the second truth. They see that silence is not distant, but woven into their own being, always waiting to be noticed. The body responds with serenity. The chest feels calm, the pulse steady, the breath unhurried. The hollow no longer aches with restlessness. It feels aligned with the quiet rhythm of life itself. The narrator whispers, "Between two heartbeats, silence lives. Just breathe. It's safe to rest here. Drifting deeper now." The night sky above glows softly, stars shimmering in their own patient rhythm. The listener rests beneath it, heartbeat steady, pauses deep, realizing that silence has always been part of them, a presence within the very pulse of life. And so, silence heals by revealing itself in the sacred pause between two heartbeats. The breath moves with a calm steadiness, flowing like wind through tall grass. Each inhale carries the listener deeper into stillness. Each exhale softens the mind into ease. Within this quiet rhythm, a deeper teaching arises. Sometimes the greatest wisdom is shared not in words, but in silence. The imagery unfolds. The listener imagines sitting in the presence of the Buddha beneath the Bodhi tree. The air is still, the branches swaying softly above. Disciples gather nearby, waiting, their minds full of questions. Yet the Buddha does not rush to answer with speech. Instead, he sits quietly, his face serene, a faint smile upon his lips. No words are spoken, but the silence itself becomes the teaching. The listeners feel peace not through explanation, but through presence. A Buddhist teaching arises. In the stories of the tradition, there are moments where the Buddha taught without speaking, where his silence carried more depth than any words could hold. Words can point toward truth, but they cannot contain it. Silence, however, allows truth to be directly experienced, uncluttered, and pure. A mindful practice unfolds. The listener is invited to sit in quiet awareness, imagining themselves beside the Bodhi tree. No mantra is needed, no visualization beyond the simple act of resting in presence. The breath flows, the body rests. Silence itself becomes the practice. In this stillness, the listener notices a calm arising, not from doing, but from being. A reflection surfaces. Some believe wisdom can only be delivered through long teachings, complex words, and careful explanation. Others discover wisdom often reveals itself in silence, when the mind is uncluttered and the heart is open. Tonight, the listener leans into the second truth. They see that silence does not hide wisdom, it reveals it. The body responds with quiet assurance. The breath slows. The chest feels open. The muscles soften. The hollow inside no longer feels empty. It feels like a chamber filled with the soft presence of truth beyond words. The narrator whispers, "Remember the Buddha's silent smile." Sometimes peace is taught not by speech, but by presence. Just breathe. It's safe to rest here. Drifting deeper now. The Bodhi tree glows in moonlight, its leaves shimmering gently, the silence beneath it vast and nourishing. The listener rests there, as though the Buddha's quiet presence surrounds them, teaching without sound, healing without speech. And so, silence heals by becoming the teacher itself. A smile, a presence, a stillness beyond words. The breath flows evenly, like soft ripples moving outward across a calm pond. Each inhale draws the listener inward. Each exhale lets go of what no longer needs to stay. With every breath, the truth becomes clearer. Silence is not something to be created. It has always been here, beneath the layers of sound and thought. The imagery unfolds. The listener imagines walking through a busy marketplace. Voices call out, footsteps scatter, wheels rattle over stones. At first, the noise feels overwhelming. But then, as attention softens, something deeper is noticed. Beneath the clamor, there is a quiet hum, the silence that holds all sound. It has been present all along, unbroken, even as the world bustled above it. A Buddhist teaching arises. The mind is naturally luminous, but it is covered by passing defilements, like clouds covering the sky. In the same way, silence is always present beneath noise. To practice is not to manufacture silence, but to notice it, to peel back the layers of sound and thought until the stillness beneath reveals itself. A mindful practice unfolds. The listener is guided to notice the sounds in their environment right now. Perhaps the faint hum of a fan, the distant echo of traffic, or the whisper of their own breath. Instead of resisting sound, they are invited to listen beyond it, to sense the silence that frames and carries it. Every sound is like a wave upon the ocean, but the silence beneath is the sea itself. A reflection surfaces. Some believe peace must be created, constructed through control and effort. Others discover peace is uncovered, always present, waiting beneath the surface. Tonight, the listener leans into the second truth. They see that silence is not fragile. It is the ground beneath all things, steady and constant. The body responds with ease. The chest feels open, the breath softer. The shoulders melt into rest. The hollow inside no longer aches with restlessness. It feels held by a stillness that was always there, just waiting to be seen. The narrator whispers, "Silence is beneath everything. Just breathe. It's always here, drifting deeper now." The marketplace fades from view, replaced by a wide-open sky. Sounds may come and go like passing clouds, but the vast silence remains, holding everything in its embrace. The listener rests here, realizing that stillness has always been within and around them, steady as the sky. And so, silence heals by reminding the listener of what has always been true, that stillness is never lost, only waiting to be noticed beneath the noise. The breath deepens soft and unhurried, like the steady flow of a river beneath the moon. Each inhale draws calm into the body. Each exhale releases tension into stillness. In this rhythm, silence takes on a new form, not as emptiness, but as quiet nourishment. Like water that gives life without needing words, the imagery unfolds. The listener imagines sitting beside a wide, flowing river at twilight. The water moves endlessly, yet its voice is muted, a hushed whisper rather than a roar. It carries fish, nourishes fields, quenches thirst, and shapes the land, all without boasting, all without sound. The river teaches that silence can be powerful and sustaining, offering life through its quiet flow. The hollow inside begins to soften, feeling like this river, filled with quiet strength. A Buddhist teaching arises. In the Dhamma, silence is often likened to water, yielding, gentle, yet capable of wearing down even the hardest stone. True strength is not loud. It is steady, patient, and enduring. Just as the river gives without seeking recognition, so silence nourishes without seeking attention. A mindful practice unfolds. The listener is invited to imagine their own breath as a river. With each inhale, water flows inward, cool and refreshing. With each exhale, the current carries away restlessness, leaving the body lighter. They feel the quiet nourishment of the breath, the way silence fills them as surely as water fills the earth. A reflection surfaces. Some believe that to be heard, one must speak loudly, assert force, make na. Others discover that true influence often arises in quiet presence, like the river that nourishes without fanfare. Tonight, the listener leans into the second truth. They see that silence heals by sustaining gently, like water flowing unseen but essential. The body responds with renewal. The chest feels fresh. The breath flows freely. The muscles soften as if bathed in cool current. The hollow inside no longer feels dry and aching. It feels nourished, as though silence itself were filling it drop by drop. The narrator whispers, "Like the river, let your silence nourish you. Just breathe. It's safe to flow, drifting deeper now. The river glimmers in silver light, stars reflecting on its surface. Its flow continues, patient and unending, feeding everything it touches. The listener rests beside it, feeling their own inner silence flow like water, sustaining, gentle, eternal. And so, silence heals by becoming a river within, nourishing, steady, and quietly powerful. The breath moves with quiet ease, like a gentle tide slipping over sand. Each inhale opens the body to spaciousness. Each exhale clears the mind of clutter. In this deepening calm, silence begins to reveal its true nature, not as a frightening void, but as a vast healing space where the heart can finally rest. The imagery unfolds. The listener imagines stepping into a Mindfulness lit only by candlelight. At first, the emptiness feels intimidating, echoing with its own vastness. But as they breathe, they notice the air is clear, the space uncluttered, the silence itself soft and welcoming. What once seemed like void is now a sanctuary, a place where nothing presses in, nothing demands, nothing weighs down. The hollow inside begins to feel less like absence and more like a gentle expanse where peace can grow. A Buddhist teaching arises. The concept of shunyata, often translated as emptiness, is not about despair or nothingness. Instead, it means openness, the truth that nothing exists independently, that all things are interconnected and free of rigid boundaries. In this openness, there is room for healing, for compassion, for freedom. Silence mirrors this teaching, revealing that what seems empty is in fact full of possibility. A mindful practice unfolds. The listener is invited to rest in the spaces between thoughts. As a thought arises, they simply notice it, and as it fades, they rest in the silence that follows. This gap is not threatening, but soothing. A soft cushion for awareness, a gentle pause that reveals the openness beneath all activity. A reflection surfaces. Some believe emptiness means nothing matters, that silence is lifeless and cold. Others discover emptiness means everything is connected, and silence is alive with presence. Tonight, the listener leans into the second truth. They see that silence heals by opening space. Space for the heart to breathe, space for the mind to soften, space for life to unfold gently. The body responds with calm spaciousness. The chest expands fully. The breath deepens. The shoulders rest with ease. The hollow inside no longer feels like a wound. It feels like an open field under the night sky, vast, peaceful, and free. The narrator whispers, "Embrace the quiet void. It is not empty, but full of peace. Just breathe. It's safe to open, drifting deeper now." The candlelit hall glows softly, shadows stretching wide across the floor. The listener rests here, realizing that silence is not a barren space, but a refuge where healing arises naturally, without effort. And so, silence heals by showing that the void is not absence, but boundless openness, alive with possibility. The breath flows like a quiet wind across still waters. Each inhale carries calm into the chest. Each exhale spreads that calm outward like ripples. Within this gentle rhythm, silence reveals itself through imagery, the mirror of a still lake at dawn. The imagery unfolds. The listener imagines walking along a forest path as night begins to lift. The air is cool, tinged with the fragrance of pine. Soon they arrive at a wide, tranquil lake. Its surface is smooth as glass, reflecting the pale light of dawn. The mountains, the sky, and the listener's own quiet form appear in its reflection, clear and undisturbed. This is the nature of silence, a mirror that reflects everything as it is, without distortion, without judgment. A Buddhist teaching arises. The mind, when still, becomes like water unshaken by wind. The Buddha compared such calmness to clarity. When the waters are still, they can reflect the truth. In silence, the restless waves of thought settle, and awareness becomes a clear mirror, revealing things as they truly are. A mindful practice unfolds. The listener is guided to imagine their breath as ripples on the lake. With each inhale, the water stirs slightly. With each exhale, it smooths again into stillness. Gradually, the surface quiets completely, mirroring the dawn sky. The listener rests in this imagery, noticing how silence reflects everything clearly, needing no effort to judge or change. A reflection surfaces. Some believe silence is blank, offering nothing. Others discover silence reveals everything, reflecting the truth more faithfully than words. Tonight, the listener leans into the second truth. They see that silence heals by becoming a mirror, calm, clear, and honest. The body responds with tranquility. The breath slows, the chest opens, the shoulders release. The hollow inside no longer feels restless. It feels like the lake itself, wide, calm, and full of reflection. The narrator whispers, "Be still like the dawn lake. Just breathe. It's safe to reflect, drifting deeper now." The lake glows with the first light of sunrise, its surface shining softly. The listener rests at its edge, gazing at the stillness that mirrors both sky and self, realizing that silence holds everything gently, just as it is. And so, silence heals by showing the mind its own clarity, like a still lake reflecting the truth of dawn. The breath flows in long, soothing waves, carrying the listener deeper into the embrace of silence. Each inhale gathers calm like light entering a window. Each exhale releases tension into stillness. And now, silence is not only noticed, it is shaped into a gentle practice, a mantra of quiet. The imagery unfolds. The listener imagines sitting before a single candle in a dim room. The flame flickers softly, steady, but alive. Each breath seems to feed it, keeping it glowing. In the hush of this space, words feel unnecessary, yet the heart longs for a rhythm to anchor it. And so, the mantra arises, not spoken aloud, but whispered within. Soft quiet, soft quiet. The phrase dissolves into silence, leaving only calm in its wake. A Buddhist teaching arises. Mantras are not about magic in the words themselves, but about focus, about shaping awareness into stillness. The Buddha often encouraged repetition of mindful phrases, not for noise, but for quiet, the way a simple reminder can guide the mind back to peace. In this way, silence and mantra are not opposites, but companions. A mindful practice unfolds. The listener is invited to follow the breath with a simple, silent phrase. Inhale, just breathe. Exhale, let go. Or, if the mind prefers stillness, only the soundless echo of the words need remain, dissolving into the quiet that follows. Over time, the mantra fades into silence, but its rhythm continues to hold the mind gently, like a lullaby without sound. A reflection surfaces. Some believe silence means absolute absence of all words, all thoughts. Others discover silence can be entered through soft words, mantras that guide the heart gently, until they too dissolve into stillness. Tonight, the listener leans into the second truth. They see that silence heals not only through absence, but through the soft guidance of phrases that return them to calm. The body responds with harmony. The chest rises smoothly. The shoulders rest deeply. The breath grows slower. The hollow inside no longer feels scattered. It feels steady, anchored by the quiet mantra, echoing softly within. The narrator whispers, "Repeat softly, then let it fade. Just breathe. It's safe to let go. Drifting deeper now." The candle glows steadily in the quiet room, shadows flickering gently across the walls. The listener rests here, repeating softly, then falling into stillness, discovering that silence and mantra weave together, carrying them deeper into peace. And so, silence heals by embracing the gentle rhythm of mantra, dissolving words into calm presence. The breath drifts like a soft current, guiding the listener inward. Each inhale feels like a door opening, each exhale like a gentle step deeper into stillness. Now, silence is no longer just the absence of sound, nor only a mantra dissolving into calm. Silence becomes the very path of listening, listening not to words, but to the quiet truth beneath them. The imagery unfolds. The listener imagines sitting in a grove of tall trees at dusk. The wind has stilled, the birds have grown silent, and yet the forest hums with presence. Each tree, each leaf, each stone seems to speak through its quiet. The listener leans closer, not with ears, but with the whole body, and discovers that silence itself has a voice, one that can only be heard by deep listening. A Buddhist teaching arises. The Buddha spoke of deep listening, Shravana, as a practice not only with others, but with oneself and the world. To listen deeply is to hear beyond words, to sense the suffering hidden beneath anger, the tenderness beneath silence. It is through such listening that compassion is born. In quietude, one learns not to rush to answer, but to rest in presence. A mindful practice unfolds. The listener is guided to sit with their own silence. They breathe slowly, noticing the thoughts that arise. Instead of pushing them away, they listen gently. Behind each thought is a longing, a need, a truth. By listening without judgment, they begin to hear themselves more clearly. With each exhale, compassion deepens, and silence becomes a friend rather than a stranger. A reflection surfaces. Some believe silence is only a void where nothing can be learned. Others discover silence is a teacher, offering wisdom through deep listening. Tonight, the listener leans into the second truth. They see that healing begins not by speaking, but by hearing. Hearing the quiet within, the whispers of life itself. The body responds with tenderness, the breath deepens, the chest feels softer, the muscles unwind further. The hollow inside no longer feels abandoned. It feels like a space where listening happens, a sanctuary for presence. The narrator whispers, "Listen, not with ears, but with your whole being. Just breathe. It's safe to hear the quiet, drifting deeper now." The forest darkens into night, stars glowing faintly between the branches. No words are spoken, yet the listener feels deeply connected to everything around them. The silence speaks without sound, teaching through presence alone. And so, silence heals by inviting the listener to walk the path of deep listening, where compassion and understanding are born. The breath flows like a soft tide, rising and falling with quiet steadiness. Each inhale gathers warmth into the heart. Each exhale lets it expand outward. In this calm rhythm, silence reveals its next gift. It opens space for compassion. In quietude, the walls of the heart soften, and kindness flows more freely. The imagery unfolds. The listener imagines sitting in a temple garden under moonlight. Lanterns glow faintly along the paths, their light gentle and welcoming. The air is calm, filled with silence so deep it seems to cradle everything it touches. Within this hush, the listener notices the heart stir with tenderness, a quiet knowing that all beings share the same breath, the same longing for peace. Silence does not isolate them, it connects them. A Buddhist teaching arises. Compassion, or karuna, is born when the mind grows quiet enough to truly feel another's suffering. Noise distracts, words confuse, but silence clears a path for empathy. The Buddha taught that when the heart rests in stillness, it naturally inclines toward kindness, like water flowing downhill. A mindful practice unfolds. The listener is guided to breathe softly, repeating within the silence, "May I be at peace. May you be at peace. May all beings be at peace." The words fade into quiet, but the feeling remains, a warmth that spreads through the body. Silence becomes the ground where compassion blossoms without effort. A reflection surfaces. Some believe silence makes one distant, cut off from others. Others discover silence is where the heart opens widest, no longer cluttered with judgments or chatter. Tonight, the listener leans into the second truth. They see that silence heals not only themselves, but also the bonds they share with others, for it reveals compassion at the core of being. The body responds with tenderness. The chest feels warm, the breath smooth, the shoulders melt downward. The hollow inside no longer feels cold. It glows softly, like the lanterns in the garden, spreading warmth into the night. The narrator whispers, "Silence opens the heart. Kindness flows easily here. Just breathe. It's safe to feel. Drifting deeper now." The temple garden glimmers under moonlight, lanterns glowing like stars brought to earth. The listener rests within this stillness, sensing compassion radiating outward, as if silence itself were an embrace for all beings. And so, silence heals by awakening compassion, reminding the listener that kindness blooms most fully in quiet hearts. The breath flows gently, like wind moving through tall grass at dusk. Each inhale carries calm into the body. Each exhale opens space for stillness to deepen. Within this rhythm, silence begins to reveal another truth: that some of the most profound teachings are beyond words, resting quietly in presence alone. The imagery unfolds. The listener imagines entering a meditation hall where monks sit in stillness. No chanting rises, no lessons are spoken. Only the sound of soft breathing, the quiet shifting of robes, the faint echo of silence filling the space. Yet in this silence, the listener feels a teaching far greater than any sermon: the simple, undeniable truth of being present. A Buddhist teaching arises. Once, when asked to explain the essence of Dharma, the Buddha simply held up a flower. No words, no doctrine, just silence and presence. In that moment, understanding dawned without language. This story reminds us that truth is not always carried in speech. Sometimes it is revealed when words fall away. A mindful practice unfolds. The listener is guided to rest without searching for explanation. With each inhale, they imagine a flower opening in silence. With each exhale, they allow thought to soften until only presence remains. In this practice, silence is no longer a background, but the teaching itself, vast, clear, and complete. A reflection surfaces. Some believe wisdom must always be explained, written, and spoken. Others discover wisdom shines most clearly in silence, uncluttered by interpretation. Tonight, the listener leans into the second truth. They see that silence heals because it allows the heart to receive truth directly, without the filters of language. The body responds with quiet surrender. The breath is unhurried, the chest soft. The muscles loose. The hollow inside no longer aches with questions. It feels whole, filled with presence, as if silence itself were the answer they had been seeking all along. The narrator whispers, "The unspoken Dharma rests here. Just breathe. It's safe to listen. Drifting deeper now." The hall glows with faint candlelight, the monks unmoving, the silence thick yet soft as velvet. The listener rests within it, realizing that in silence, truth does not need to be explained. It is simply known. And so, silence heals by becoming the unspoken Dharma, a teaching that reveals itself in presence beyond words. The breath lengthens, soft and steady, rising like mist, falling like gentle rain. Each inhale opens the body to spaciousness. Each exhale carries the listener deeper into silence. And now, silence begins to stretch wider, beyond the room, beyond the earth, reaching outward into the infinite. It is in this expansion that the listener learns to breathe with the stars. The imagery unfolds. The listener imagines lying on a hillside beneath a vast night sky. Stars scatter across the heavens, shimmering like countless lanterns. There is no sound but the slow rhythm of breath, blending with the silent rhythm of the cosmos. Inhale, the stars seem to brighten. Exhale, the vastness of space draws the body into rest. The silence here is not small. It is cosmic, infinite, a silence that holds galaxies within its embrace. A Buddhist teaching arises. The Buddha often pointed to the vastness of existence to show that the self is not isolated, but part of something boundless. In silence, the mind touches this truth. Just as stars shine without words, so too can awareness radiate without effort. To breathe with the stars is to remember that silence is the language of the universe. A mindful practice unfolds. The listener is invited to match their breath with the vastness above. Inhale slowly, imagining starlight filling the chest. Exhale gently, releasing into the endless space. Each cycle of breath becomes a dialogue with the cosmos. No words, only stillness shared across infinity. A reflection surfaces. Some believe silence is small, confined to rooms or pauses between sounds. Others discover silence is vast, as wide as the night sky, as infinite as the stars. Tonight, the listener leans into the second truth. They see that silence heals not by shrinking, but by expanding the heart into the boundless. The body responds with deep calm. The chest feels wide, the breath effortless. The muscles melt into the ground beneath. The hollow inside no longer aches with limitation. It feels infinite, glowing like starlight woven into silence. The narrator whispers, "Breathe with the stars. Let silence expand you. Just breathe. It's safe to open wide, drifting deeper now." The hillside glows faintly in starlight, the sky endless, the silence profound. The listener rests here, breathing with the cosmos, discovering that silence is not only within, but also around them, vast and eternal. And so, silence heals by expanding awareness into the infinite, breathing as one with the stars. The breath flows gently, like wind through reeds, steady and calming. Each inhale gathers the tension that remains. Each exhale releases it softly into the vastness of silence. Now silence reveals another of its hidden gifts. It is the sound of letting go. The imagery unfolds. The listener imagines holding a small bundle of leaves in their hands. At first, the grip is tight, as though these dry leaves carry something essential. But with each breath, the hands slowly open, and the leaves are carried away by the breeze. Their fall is silent, their release effortless. The listener feels the same release within. Worries, regrets, and clinging thoughts lifted softly by the hush of silence, drifting away like the leaves. A Buddhist teaching arises. The Buddha spoke of release as the essence of liberation, the cooling of the fire of craving, the soft unbinding of knots in the heart. Letting go does not always arrive with sound or struggle. Often, it is silent, like a bird lifting from its perch, like water slipping through open fingers. Silence teaches that release does not need force. It arises naturally when we stop clinging. A mindful practice unfolds. The listener is guided to focus on the exhale. With each breath out, they imagine setting something down. A tension in the shoulders, a thought that has lingered too long, a memory carried like weight. The exhale becomes the quiet sigh of release, the soft sound of letting go. A reflection surfaces. Some believe release requires effort, a loud breaking free. Others discover release happens quietly, when the heart rests in silence. Tonight, the listener leans into the second truth. They see that silence heals by offering space where letting go can happen gently, without force. The body responds with surrender. The chest feels light, the breath steady, the muscles soft. The hollow inside no longer feels burdened. It feels airy, like an open sky cleared of storm clouds. The narrator whispers, "Exhale and let it go." Silence carries it away. Just breathe. It's safe to release. Drifting deeper now. The hillside within the imagination grows quieter still. The breeze carries away the leaves, leaving the ground soft and bare, free of clutter. The listener rests here, feeling unburdened, discovering that silence itself is the sound of freedom. And so, silence heals by teaching the art of letting go, a release as soft as breath, as quiet as night. The breath deepens, slow and unhurried, like the gentle rhythm of waves caressing the shore. Each inhale fills the body with calm. Each exhale releases into spacious quiet. In this rhythm, silence becomes more than comfort. It is a medicine, a balm that eases the restlessness of the mind and soothes the ache of the heart. The imagery unfolds. The listener imagines sitting in a small mountain hut during a gentle snowfall. Outside, the world is hushed, wrapped in a blanket of white. Each snowflake falls without sound, layering the earth in silence. Within this quiet, the listener feels their worries soften, as though the silence itself were a healing blanket, covering old wounds and cooling the heat of restlessness. A Buddhist teaching arises. The Buddha often described the mind as inflamed by craving and aversion, restless like a fire. The cooling of this fire is nibbana, a liberation that feels like peace. Silence reflects this teaching. It soothes the restless flames, cools the burning thoughts, and heals the inner turmoil. A mindful practice unfolds. The listener is invited to bring awareness to a place of discomfort within, perhaps a tension in the chest or a worry in the mind. Instead of resisting, they gently bathe it in silence, as though laying it down in the snowfall outside the hut. With each breath, the cool quiet covers it, softening its sharp edges until it feels lighter, gentler, easier to carry. A reflection surfaces. Some believe healing requires noise, action, constant striving. Others discover healing comes when silence is allowed to wash over the wounds of the heart. Tonight, the listener leans into the second truth. They see that silence heals like medicine, restoring balance not through force, but through gentleness. The body responds with relief. The breath becomes smooth, the chest light, the mind unknots itself. The hollow inside no longer burns with restlessness. It feels cooled, soothed, and whole, as if silence itself were the balm. The narrator whispers, "Silence is medicine. Just breathe. Let it soothe you." Drifting deeper now. The mountain hut glows with candlelight, snow falling endlessly outside, covering the world in peace. The listener rests here, warmed within, cooled without, discovering that silence itself is a healing medicine. And so, silence heals by soothing restlessness, cooling the fire of the mind, and bringing peace like snow, falling quietly through the night. The breath flows gently, unhurried, like a tide moving across sand and returning again. Each inhale gathers stillness into the body. Each exhale spreads that stillness outward. Within this quiet rhythm, silence reveals another gift. It is not only healing in solitude, but also in togetherness. Shared silence becomes communion. The imagery unfolds. The listener imagines sitting in a circle with others, perhaps in a temple, a meadow, or a quiet room. No one speaks, yet the air feels full. Each person breathes softly, their presence felt without words. The silence between them is not empty. It is alive, like an invisible thread weaving everyone together. In this quiet, hearts understand one another without needing sound. A Buddhist teaching arises. The Buddha often emphasized Sangha, the community of practitioners walking the path together. Sometimes their greatest strength was not in chanting or discourse, but in simply sitting quietly side by side, breathing the same air, resting in the same silence. This shared stillness becomes a reminder that no one walks alone. A mindful practice unfolds. The listener is invited to imagine someone they love, or even someone they struggle with, sitting beside them in silence. No words are spoken. Instead, they simply share the same breath, the same quiet space. With each inhale, compassion rises. With each exhale, connection deepens. The silence between them becomes a bridge of understanding. A reflection surfaces. Some believe silence isolates. building walls between people. Others discover silence connects, allowing deeper understanding than words can give. Tonight, the listener leans into the second truth. They see that silence heals by binding hearts together, reminding them of shared humanity. The body responds with warmth. The chest feels open, the breath steady, the shoulders light. The hollow inside no longer feels lonely. It feels accompanied, as though silence itself were a companion, sitting gently by their side. The narrator whispers, "Shared silence is togetherness. Just breathe. It's safe to feel connected, drifting deeper now." The circle of imagined presence glows with quiet light. No one speaks, yet the atmosphere is full of compassion and calm. The listener rests here, knowing that in silence, they are never truly alone. And so, silence heals by becoming communion, a shared space where words are not needed, and hearts where rest together in peace. The breath drifts like a soft current through the body, steady and calm. Each inhale fills the chest with quiet spaciousness. Each exhale releases gently into stillness. In this rhythm, silence begins to reveal itself as a doorway, a path that opens not outward, but inward, leading the listener home to themselves. The imagery unfolds. The listener imagines standing before a simple wooden gate in a garden. Beyond the gate lies a sanctuary of peace, but the entrance is unguarded, needing no key, only willingness to step through. The gate creaks softly as it opens, and on the other side is silence, a vast, welcoming space that feels like returning home after a long journey. The hollow inside begins to soften, as if it recognizes this silence as its true dwelling. A Buddhist teaching arises. The path of meditation is not about reaching some far-off place, but about coming home to the present moment. The Buddha taught that all beings carry their refuge within them, but most forget to open the gate. Silence becomes that doorway, a passage into presence, into the self as it truly is. A mindful practice unfolds. The listener is invited to follow the breath as if walking through the gate. Inhale, stepping into the moment. Exhale, resting fully inside it. With each cycle of breath, they move deeper into this sanctuary, realizing that silence is not something to search for. It is simply entered, like walking into one's own home. A reflection surfaces. Some believe peace must be sought in distant places, in retreats, temples, or mountains. Others discover peace is found within, through the simple doorway of silence. Tonight, the listener leans into the second truth. They see that silence heals by guiding them back to themselves, where they have always belonged. The body responds with recognition. The breath feels natural, the chest open, the mind softened. The hollow inside no longer aches with displacement. It feels rooted, grounded, as though silence itself were a home they had forgotten. The narrator whispers, "The doorway is always here. Just breathe. Step gently inside, drifting deeper now." The wooden gate swings silently shut behind them, and the listener finds themselves within a sanctuary of stillness. No sound, no burden, only presence, only home. And so, silence heals by becoming the doorway back to the self, a gentle path home to peace. The breath flows like a gentle tide, steady and soothing. Each inhale feels like a new beginning, each exhale like a soft release into rest. In this quiet rhythm, silence shows yet another face. It is the companion of impermanence, teaching the listener how to embrace change without fear. The imagery unfolds. The listener imagines sitting in a garden as petals drift slowly from a tree. Each petal falls without sound, landing gently upon the earth. The silence of their descent is tender, not sorrowful, reminding the listener that change is natural, woven into the rhythm of life. Nothing clings, nothing resists. Even beauty knows when to let go. The hollow inside begins to soften, no longer resisting change, but resting in the quiet flow of impermanence. A Buddhist teaching arises. The Buddha taught that all things are impermanent, rising, fading, and passing in their time. It is attachment that creates suffering, but silence offers a way to witness impermanence with peace. In the hush of stillness, the truth of change feels less frightening, more like a gentle unfolding. A mindful practice unfolds. The listener is guided to focus on the breath as an example of impermanence. Each inhale arises, stays briefly, then fades. Each exhale follows, vanishes, and makes space for the next. By resting in this rhythm, they see impermanence, not as loss, but as continuity, a flow of beginnings and endings held within silence. A reflection surfaces. Some believe silence is static, lifeless, unchanging. Others discover silence reveals impermanence in its most tender form, a quiet acceptance that nothing stays, and that this, too, is peace. Tonight, the listener leans into the second truth. They see that silence heals by softening resistance, teaching the heart to flow with life's changes. The body responds with surrender. The breath feels fluid, the shoulders loose, the mind soft as petals. The hollow inside no longer aches with fear of endings. It feels like open soil, ready to receive what falls, ready to nurture what comes. The narrator whispers, "Watch the petals fall. Nothing is lost. Everything flows. Just breathe. It's safe to accept. Drifting deeper now." The garden glows in twilight, petals scattering silently across the earth. The listener rests here, learning through stillness that change is gentle when embraced in silence. And so, silence heals by revealing the peace of impermanence, the quiet truth that all things pass, and in their passing, life continues. The breath moves slowly, soft as a lullaby. Each inhale gathers peace into the body. Each exhale deepens the stillness. Within this gentle rhythm, silence begins to reveal another truth. It is a teacher of patience, showing that growth does not need to be rushed, for all things unfold in their own quiet time. The imagery unfolds. The listener imagines sitting in a bamboo grove. The stalks rise tall and slender, their leaves swaying faintly in the breeze. Though bamboo grows quickly, its sound is hushed, its progress nearly invisible. Day after day, it stretches upward, not with noise or struggle, but with quiet patience. The listener feels this same patience within, as though their own growth is supported by silence. A Buddhist teaching arises. The Buddha often compared spiritual practice to tending a garden. Seeds of mindfulness are planted, watered, and cared for, but they don't bloom overnight. Silence becomes the soil in which these seeds rest. In quiet, they grow unseen, until one day they blossom naturally. A mindful practice unfolds. The listener is invited to imagine a seed resting in the earth of their own heart. With each inhale, they water it with calm. With each exhale, they let it rest in silence. They do not force it to sprout, nor pull at its leaves to hurry its growth. They simply wait, trusting silence to do its work. A reflection surfaces. Some believe progress must be loud and immediate, visible to all. Others discover that the deepest transformations happen quietly, in patience, unseen until the time is right. Tonight, the listener leans into the second truth. They see that silence heals by teaching patience, the trust that growth is already happening, even when unseen. The body responds with ease. The breath is smooth, the chest light, the mind unhurried. The hollow inside no longer aches with urgency. It feels like fertile soil, calm and steady, holding the promise of unseen growth. The narrator whispers, "Patience blooms in silence. Just breathe. It's safe to wait, drifting deeper now." The bamboo grove sways in gentle rhythm, tall and steady, rooted in silence. The listener rests here, knowing that their own growth is unfolding in the same quiet way, steady, natural, inevitable. And so, silence heals by nurturing patience, showing that peace is found not in rushing, but in allowing things to unfold in their own time. The breath flows steadily now, soft as mist moving over a valley. Each inhale draws in a sense of clarity. Each exhale releases the mind into deeper calm. In this rhythm, silence reveals itself as a mirror of the mind, showing thoughts as they are, without distortion, and offering peace through simple awareness. The imagery unfolds. The listener imagines stepping into a quiet cave by the sea. Inside, the air is cool and still, and a pool of water lies at its center. The surface of the pool reflects every flicker of torchlight, every curve of stone, with perfect clarity. Yet when the water is stirred, the reflection blurs. Silence, like still water, shows the mind its true nature. When the waves of thought subside, the reflection of the self becomes clear, steady, and calm. A Buddhist teaching arises. The Buddha compared the unsettled mind to water agitated by wind. It cannot reflect reality as it truly is. But in silence, the wind of distraction falls still, and the mind reflects truth like a mirror. To rest in silence is to see clearly, without distortion, without clinging. A mindful practice unfolds. The listener is guided to watch their thoughts as ripples on the pool. With each inhale, they notice a ripple arise. With each exhale, they allow it to fade. Instead of resisting or following the ripples, they simply observe them until the water grows clear again. In this quiet clarity, the listener glimpses peace. A reflection surfaces. Some believe silence is about erasing all thoughts, forcing the mind to empty. Others discover silence is about seeing thoughts clearly, letting them pass without entanglement. Tonight, the listener leans into the second truth. They see that silence heals by clarifying, turning confusion into calm understanding. The body responds with openness. The chest feels clear, the breath deep, the muscles soft. The hollow inside no longer churns with turbulence. It feels like a still pool, calm and reflective. The narrator whispers, "Let the ripples fade. Silence reveals your truth. Just breathe. It's safe to be clear, drifting deeper now." The cave grows darker as the torches dim, yet the pool glows faintly with reflected light. The listener rests at its edge, gazing into its stillness, realizing that silence does not erase, but clarifies, revealing the calm truth beneath. And so, silence heals by becoming a mirror of the mind, restoring clarity and peace through still reflection. The breath moves softly, steady as a lantern flame shielded from the wind. Each inhale gathers calm. Each exhale opens into ease. In this rhythm, silence reveals yet another face. It is the ground of mindfulness, the fertile space where awareness takes root and grows steady. The imagery unfolds. The listener imagines sitting in a quiet garden at dawn. The air is cool, the earth still damp with dew. As the first rays of sunlight appear, the world stirs gently awake. But for now, all is hushed. In this silence, the listener notices every detail. The way the grass bends under dew, the faint fragrance of blossoms, the slow rhythm of breath moving in and out. The silence sharpens awareness, making each sensation vivid, yet restful. A Buddhist teaching arises. The Buddha described mindfulness as sati, remembering, being fully present with what is. Mindfulness cannot flourish in constant noise, for distraction scatters attention. But in silence, awareness gathers. It notices the small details, the quiet truths, the reality of each moment as it is. A mindful practice unfolds. The listener is invited to rest in awareness of a single breath. Inhale, noticing the coolness entering the nose. Exhale, feeling the warmth leaving. In the quiet, this simple act becomes complete, whole. Silence becomes the soil in which mindfulness grows, steady and unbroken. A reflection surfaces. Some believe mindfulness is effortful, a constant striving to focus. Others discover mindfulness arises naturally in silence, like flowers blooming in spring. Tonight, the listener leans into the second truth. They see that silence heals by grounding attention, by nourishing presence with every breath. The body responds with balance. The breath feels natural, the chest light, the mind attentive, yet at rest. The hollow inside no longer feels scattered. It feels centered, steady, like the garden earth cradling roots. The narrator whispers, in silence, awareness blooms. Just breathe. It's safe to notice, drifting deeper now. The garden brightens as dawn unfolds, colors deepening in the stillness. The listener rests here, realizing that silence is not absence, but the ground of mindfulness, a place where awareness grows clear and strong. And so, silence heals by becoming the foundation of mindfulness, a quiet ground where presence is cultivated. The breath flows slowly, unbroken, like a calm stream winding through forest shade. Each inhale draws in serenity. Each exhale lets go of restlessness. In this rhythm, silence begins to reveal yet another of its treasures. It becomes the doorway to wisdom, opening space for insight to arise naturally. The imagery unfolds. The listener imagines sitting beneath an old tree, roots deep in the earth, branches reaching into the sky. Around them, the forest is still. No voices, no movements, only silence. As they rest, thoughts that once felt tangled begin to untwist. Questions that seemed heavy lose their urgency. Answers do not arrive in words, but in a quiet knowing, as if the silence itself whispers truth into the heart. A Buddhist teaching arises. Wisdom, or prajna, often comes not in noise or complexity, but in stillness. The Buddha taught that the mind, when calm, sees clearly, like water settling so that what lies beneath becomes visible. In silence, wisdom does not need to be forced. It simply arises when the conditions are right. A mindful practice unfolds. The listener is invited to notice a thought or question lingering in the mind. Instead of chasing it, they place it gently into the silence, like setting a leaf upon still water. With each breath, they watch as it drifts, rests, and slowly dissolves. The silence holds it, softens it, and reveals clarity without effort. A reflection surfaces. Some believe wisdom is earned only through books, debate, and endless words. Others discover wisdom arises in the hush, when the mind is quiet enough to see things as they truly are. Tonight, the listener leans into the second truth. They see that silence heals by opening the heart to insight, by allowing wisdom to surface naturally. The body responds with quiet clarity. The breath is steady, the chest light, the mind feels spacious. The hollow inside no longer aches with confusion. It feels illuminated, as though silence itself has lit a lamp within. The narrator whispers, Wisdom rises in stillness. Just breathe. It's safe to see clearly, drifting deeper now. The forest glows faintly as moonlight falls through the branches. The tree stands steady, its silence deep as time itself. The listener rests here, sensing that in stillness, truth is revealed without need for words. And so, silence heals by becoming the cradle of wisdom, where clarity arises like dawn breaking through the night. The breath settles into an even flow, calm and nourishing. Each inhale gathers peace into the body. Each exhale carries the mind deeper into stillness. Within this rhythm, silence takes on a new role. It becomes the ground where creativity awakens, the quiet space from which new visions arise. The imagery unfolds. The listener imagines sitting before a blank canvas in a silent room. No colors have yet been brushed, no shapes drawn. At first, the emptiness feels daunting, but as the silence deepens, inspiration begins to stir. Images form softly. Ideas appear like faint outlines. The canvas is no longer empty. It is alive with potential. Silence is the womb of creativity, holding endless possibilities waiting to emerge. A Buddhist teaching arises. The Buddha spoke of the mind as luminous by nature, only clouded by passing defilements. When the noise of distraction subsides, this luminosity shines through, and from it springs clarity, insight, and imagination. In silence, the mind does not wither, it blossoms. A mindful practice unfolds. The listener is guided to rest in the quiet space before thought. With each inhale, they notice the openness. With each exhale, they allow fresh possibilities to arise without judgment. The silence itself becomes a canvas, where awareness paints softly, not with effort, but with the natural creativity of presence. A reflection surfaces. Some believe silence stifles expression, that without noise and stimulation, creativity fades. Others discover silence is the source of creation, the fertile soil from which inspiration grows. Tonight, the listener leans into the second truth. They see that silence heals by opening space for imagination, for new ways of being. The body responds with expansion. The chest feels wide, the breath free, the mind clear. The hollow inside no longer aches with emptiness. It feels like a canvas ready to receive colors, alive with potential. The narrator whispers, "Silence is a canvas. Just breathe. Let inspiration arise, drifting deeper now." The blank canvas in the room glows softly, bathed in quiet light. The listener rests before it, realizing that silence itself is creative, a boundless space where new life and vision can appear. And so, silence heals by awakening creativity, showing that the quietest spaces hold the greatest potential. The breath flows slowly, like the tide pulling gently across the shore. Each inhale carries in steadiness. Each exhale releases into openness. In this rhythm, silence reveals itself as balance, the middle way between extremes, the quiet ground where harmony is restored. The imagery unfolds. The listener imagines walking along a path that stretches between two fields. On one side, a storm rages with thunder and wind. On the other side, the air is heavy with heat and stillness. Yet here, on the path itself, the air feels calm, the sky above clear. Silence is this path, the middle space where neither storm nor stifling heat holds sway, where balance rests naturally. A Buddhist teaching arises. The Buddha taught the middle way as the path to liberation, avoiding both indulgence and denial, excess and deprivation. Silence mirrors this wisdom. It is not the extreme of noise, nor the extreme of forced emptiness, but the balanced space where the mind can rest in clarity. A mindful practice unfolds. The listener is guided to notice their own breath as a symbol of balance. Inhale. Energy rises. Exhale. Release follows. Neither is clung to, neither resisted. The rhythm itself is the middle way, a balance discovered in silence. A reflection surfaces. Some believe silence means withdrawal, cutting away from life. Others discover silence is balance, a gentle space that holds all things without clinging. Tonight, the listener leans into the second truth. They see that silence heals by guiding them toward harmony, steadying the heart between extremes. The body responds with equilibrium. The breath is smooth, the chest open, the shoulders loose. The hollow inside no longer swings between restlessness and heaviness. It feels steady, balanced, whole. The narrator whispers, "Walk the middle path. Silence is balance. Just breathe. It's safe to rest here, drifting deeper now." The path stretches softly beneath their feet, steady and clear, while storms and heat remain distant, unable to touch the stillness at the center. The listener rests here, realizing that silence is harmony, the gentle middle ground where peace resides. And so, silence heals by embodying balance, guiding the heart along the quiet middle way. The breath deepens, flowing with ease, like wind moving through an open valley. Each inhale draws in spaciousness. Each exhale releases into freedom. In this rhythm, silence reveals another of its gifts. It is freedom itself, the release from endless noise, the gentle liberation of the heart. The imagery unfolds. The listener imagines walking through a wide desert at dusk. The air is vast, the horizon endless, and the silence profound. There are no walls here, no boundaries, only openness stretching in every direction. Each step feels lighter, as though the silence itself dissolves the chains of worry and expectation. The hollow inside begins to soften, no longer confined, but expanding into the infinite quiet. A Buddhist teaching arises. Liberation, or vimutti, is not bound by noise, craving, or clinging. The Buddha taught that freedom comes when the mind releases its grasp and rests in stillness. Silence reflects this truth. It does not bind, it does not demand. It simply allows the heart to rest, unburdened, free. A mindful practice unfolds. The listener is guided to breathe as though opening into space. Inhale, expansion. Exhale, release. With each breath, they imagine chains dissolving, worries falling away, and the mind becoming wide and unbound. Silence holds this openness, offering the heart its natural freedom. A reflection surfaces. Some believe freedom is found in having more choices, more noise, more distraction. Others discover freedom is found in silence, where nothing needs to be added and nothing clings. Tonight, the listener leans into the second truth. They see that silence heals by unbinding the heart, offering the spaciousness of release. The body responds with openness. The chest feels wide, the breath light, the mind expansive. The hollow inside no longer aches with confinement. It feels free, limitless, like the desert stretching under twilight skies. The narrator whispers, "Silence is freedom. Just breathe. It's safe to expand, drifting deeper now." The desert glows softly as stars begin to appear overhead. The listener rests here, discovering that silence is not emptiness, but liberation, an open expanse where the spirit is free. And so, silence heals by opening the heart to freedom, revealing that quiet itself is liberation. The breath moves with quiet rhythm, steady as moonlight spilling across still water. Each inhale gathers calm. Each exhale releases into a deeper softness. In this rhythm, silence reveals its final depth. It is unity, the reminder that all things are woven together in one vast stillness. The imagery unfolds. The listener imagines sitting on a cliff overlooking the ocean at night. The waves roll in far below, but from this height they seem to move as one body, the water rising and falling in harmony. The sky above is vast, stars scattered like jewels, and yet in silence, the listener feels there is no separation. Sea, sky. Breath and self are one. The hollow inside dissolves, not filled, but merged with the whole. A Buddhist teaching arises. The Buddha spoke of interbeing, the truth that nothing exists alone, that every breath, every being, every star is connected. In silence, this truth is not just understood, but felt. Without words, the heart realizes it has never been separate. A mindful practice unfolds. The listener is guided to rest in the breath as part of a larger rhythm. Inhale. The world breathes in with them. Exhale, the world breathes out. The silence surrounding the breath becomes the fabric of unity, holding everything together. A reflection surfaces. Some believe silence isolates, cutting off the self from others. Others discover silence reveals oneness, a vast quiet where boundaries fade. Tonight, the listener leans into the second truth. They see that silence heals by reminding them they are never alone. always part of the great stillness. The body responds with wholeness. The chest feels expansive, the breath unbroken, the mind soft as the sea. The hollow inside no longer aches with separation. It feels dissolved into unity, vast and whole. The narrator whispers, in silence, all is one, just breathe. It's safe to belong, drifting deeper now. The ocean and the night sky merge in their quiet majesty. The listener rests here, realizing that silence is not separation but connection, the great web that holds everything gently together. And so, silence heals by revealing unity, the boundless truth that in stillness, all things are one. The breath drifts in slow, soothing waves, gentle as candlelight flickering in a quiet room. Each inhale draws in calm presence. Each exhale carries the listener deeper into surrender. In this rhythm, silence offers its most intimate gift. It becomes sanctuary, the sacred refuge where the heart can truly rest. The imagery unfolds. The listener imagines entering a small sanctuary hidden deep within a forest. The walls are lined with stone, the air cool and fragrant with incense. A single flame glows softly at the center, casting warm light across the space. No words are spoken. No movement disturbs the stillness. In this sanctuary of silence, the listener feels safe, sheltered, held. The hollow inside softens completely, embraced by the quiet refuge. A Buddhist teaching arises. The Buddha spoke often of refuge, the act of turning toward the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha for safety and peace. Yet silence itself can be a refuge, a safe haven where the storms of the world cannot reach. To rest in silence is to rest in safety, as if the heart has found its true shelter. A mindful practice unfolds. The listener is guided to imagine their breath as a flame within this sanctuary. Inhale. The flame glows brighter. Exhale. The flame steadies and rests. Each breath nourishes the light, and the silence around it protects it. The listener feels their body and mind drawn into this haven, as though silence itself were wrapping them in a cloak of peace. A reflection surfaces. Some believe sanctuary is found only in temples, in holy places far away. Others discover sanctuary lives within, in the silence that is always accessible, waiting like a safe harbor. Tonight, the listener leans into the second truth. The way that silence heals by becoming a refuge, protecting the heart and soothing the spirit. The body responds with comfort. The breath is smooth, the chest light. The muscles melt into softness. The hollow inside no longer feels exposed. It feels protected, as though silence itself were the sanctuary. The narrator whispers, "This is your refuge. Silence holds you safe. Just breathe. It's safe to rest, drifting deeper now." The sanctuary glows gently in candlelight, its stillness deep and abiding. The listener rests here, feeling completely safe, knowing that silence itself is a sacred refuge they can always return to. And so, Silence heals by becoming sanctuary, the inner temple where the heart finds its rest. The breath flows in its gentlest rhythm yet, slow as a lullaby, deep as an ocean tide. Each inhale gathers calm into every corner of the body. Each exhale carries the spirit deeper into peace. In this rhythm, silence reveals its final truth. It is not simply absence, nor practice, nor teaching. Silence is home, the place where the journey ends and the heart rests completely. The imagery unfolds. The listener imagines returning from a long pilgrimage, steps weary but steady. At last, they arrive at a quiet dwelling at the edge of a forest. A soft lamp glows in the window. Inside, there are no words, no demands, no noise, only silence. They cross the threshold and sink into its embrace. The hollow inside fills not with sound, but with belonging. The silence is warm, protective, familiar. It is the home they had always been seeking. A Buddhist teaching arises. The Buddha often spoke of the end of suffering as nibbana, the cooling of the fires, the unbinding of all clinging. It is not an achievement of sound and struggle, but the peace of resting where nothing more is needed. Silence embodies this truth. It is the natural return, the stillness that holds all paths, the final home of the heart. A mindful practice unfolds. The listener is guided to rest in the breath without effort. Inhale, the body opens. Exhale, the heart rests. No striving, no reaching, only being. Silence becomes the true dwelling, the inner home, always waiting, always open. A reflection surfaces. Some believe the journey of peace lies somewhere far away, hidden in places yet to be found. Others discover the journey ends here, in the silence they carry within. Tonight, the listener leans into the second truth. They see that silence heals by becoming home, the final resting place of the spirit. The body responds with deep surrender. The breath is slow and even, the chest soft, the limbs heavy with release. The hollow inside no longer aches with searching. It feels whole, rooted, and at rest. The narrator whispers, "You have arrived. Silence is home. Just breathe. It's safe to rest completely, drifting deeper now." The forest outside fades into darkness. The lamp within glows steadily. The listener rests in this dwelling of stillness, knowing the journey is complete. Silence is no longer something to seek. It is the home that has always been here. And so, silence heals by becoming the final refuge, the home of the heart, the quiet where the journey ends in peace. The breath is slow now, deep and unhurried, flowing like the final notes of a lullaby dissolving into the night. The journey has carried the listener through many paths of silence. Its strength, its compassion, its wisdom, its unity, and now the silence rests gently around them, soft as a blanket drawn close. There is no more seeking, no more striving, only rest, only stillness, only peace. The imagery softens. The listener imagines lying upon a quiet meadow beneath a sky full of stars. The earth is steady beneath, the heavens endless above. The silence here is vast, but tender, wrapping them like a cradle. The grass sways faintly in the breeze, and the stars shimmer with patient calm. Nothing needs to be done. Nothing needs to be solved. The silence carries them completely. The breath continues its rhythm. Inhale, a tide rising. Exhale, a tide falling. The body grows heavier, sinking into the support of the earth. The mind loosens, thoughts drifting like clouds that dissolve into the sky. Each moment feels slower, softer, until even time itself seems to rest in silence. The narrator whispers, "Just breathe. It's safe to let go." Drifting deeper now. The journey rests now, and so can you. The body responds with surrender. The chest is light, the limbs heavy, the heartbeat calm and steady. The hollow inside no longer aches, for it has been filled with silence, not as absence, but as presence, warmth, belonging. The reflection comes softly. Silence was never far. It was here all along, within the breath, between the thoughts, beneath the noise. It is not something to be chased, but something to be noticed. A companion, a refuge, a home. Every breath can return here. Every night can end here. Every heart can heal here. The imagery grows tender. The meadow fades into soft darkness, the stars dimming gently like candles blown out one by one. The world grows quieter still until nothing remains but the soft pulse of breath, the calm embrace of silence. The listener rests fully now, carried by the quiet that heals, protects, and soothes. The narrator whispers one last time, "Rest now. The journey has carried you home." The silence holds you, and you are safe. Sweet dreams. The silence deepens like an endless ocean of calm, holding the listener softly in its embrace. The story dissolves into stillness, leaving only peace.